Lynne is presenting Pathways, Presentation Mastery Level 2. Adrian, you are evaluating Lynne's speech. Please will you tell us about her speech?
The purpose of Lynne's project is for her to learn about different communication styles and identify her primary style. Secondly, the purpose of her speech is for the member to share the impact of her style on others.
Thank you, Adrian. Please welcome Lynne. Let's start at the very beginning. Let's start at the very beginning. Lynne.
Thoughts, desire, and then action. Perhaps there were signs prior to this, but I recall at the age of 15 and in Standard 8 an internal teenage revolution where I decided that church and Sunday school, which I had attended since I was an infant, was no longer of interest to me. And I would no longer attend until and unless it made sense for me to do so. My practical parents, who were just do what you ought to do, led this to be a rather quiet standoff, and very few words were exchanged. 3 other highlights on this particular quest are useful to share. Madam Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, visitors and guests. 26 years of age, in Cape Town visiting a friend Mandy. My very dear friend Kathy, also known as Catherine Miriam Coyle, was with me. They were friends and there was music, and my oftentimes introverted personality permitted me a moment of exhibitionism as Kathy and I sang a duet. That night is equally memorable for some entirely different reason. The book I was reading was to provide an alternative perspective, which blew a hole into my future and opened it wide, wide, wide with possibility. In early 2011, at the age of 39, I was lying on my couch at home, mindlessly changing from one channel to another with my remote, utterly uninspired. And quite often I would fill that void with a social activity, but those activities now also had lost their shine for me. At the age of 39 in 2011, I attended a centre of education in India, thanks to a business acquaintance. Like a sponge, I soaked up all the nuggets that asked me to consider the importance of developing one's intellect and managing our very emotional minds. And if I did that my future and the levels of mental agitation would significantly reduce. Armed with this information, in early 2012, having been uninspired by the time on the couch and the social activities leaving me cold, the thought was, is this my life? No. Change it. At the time, I was working for a global leadership organization, and the territory that I covered was across Europe, Middle East, and Africa. I had worked from a remote home office, and as such, I could live anywhere within that territory. And so I thought, where should I go? Italy was a very easy decision, because as a romantic, I'd always longed for its many textures. 2 months later, I arrived by plane in Milan, and it was transported by train for an hour to a little town, and from there by bus, 3 kilometers, to the quaint village of Torno on Lake Como. I knew buongiorno was good morning, and I knew ciao was cool, but I didn't think I should use it yet. And the first 6 weeks were spent in a bed and breakfast, And I enjoyed breakfast every morning on the ground floor in this little restaurant, as did many of the elderly gents from the charming village who would sip on their espressos and make casual conversation. Roberto was one of these elderly gents, and he nodded in acknowledgement of me when I first arrived. And within a week, he was sitting with me at my breakfast table giving me Italian language lessons. Ernesto was one of the other beautiful characters who taught me that with an individual pizza slice, you should fold it like an envelope, a portfolio, and that's how you use it. Ada, who cleaned the bedrooms in the B&B, and her husband Franco invited me to dinner, and they made homemade strawberry risotto. We knew very little of each other's languages, and yet we developed the most meaningful friendship, and we discussed reincarnation, even with all our limited language. So I've shared with you about some moments, some communication. You're passive-aggressive sometimes. You're an assertive. I'm one-man combination, depending on the weather in my mind. Right now the skies are clear and it's a lovely 23 degrees. But this afternoon I may be cloudy with a very big chance of thunderstorm. And because of that, it doesn't matter to me what your communication style is. What matters is who I am. Because I have a responsibility to every single one of you. We must be careful, and we should move away from being imprisoned by all these very complicated categories. While I was preparing the content, I returned to the thing that is my center, my lighthouse. Who am I? We should return to the fundamentals, all the guiding principles that guide our every thought, which leads to our desires, which leads to actions. Let's start at the very beginning.